That's right. Woohoo! Chapter 8. We
I'm
are
still one chapter behind. I'm catching up. I'm almost there.
chapter 8's really small. So
Okay, I'm
yeah.
right there. That's my next chapter.
So in fact, what I share with you tonight, I mean, it'll be good to read it afterwards
Yeah.
too, so that'll be good. But it's short. It's a really short one. And so I was even thinking, man, I don't even know if I'm gonna have very many notes, but I always shock myself. Not true. Anyways, so she starts off in the chapter 8 on a podcast question that was submitted. And basically, in a nutshell, he talks about canceling the wedding. Uh, and part of what he says in his question or his statement is there is a question at the end, but his statement is worrying about everybody's feelings, and family members have paid deposits and so forth, and so there's this management of emotions is what I like to boil it down. When we try to manage other people's feelings or emotions, same thing, synonymous, we lose ourselves, we abandon ourselves, we're no longer living our life making choices from our truth, from our values, from our life. Because what choices and decisions that we make, which we're always making choices and decisions, we have to pay the costs, we have to pay the expense, the price, the whatever. And so when we're concerned in levying other people's feelings and emotions, we abandon ourselves, we switch to making decisions out of reaction. And I'm gonna kind of, I don't want to say that I'm don't agree with what Mel says in this chapter, but again, this is a really tiny chapter. It's super short. So I don't know, maybe some of this got left on the floor. But I do believe that you lose yourself when you're attempting to regulate everybody else's feelings and emotions and what they think and what they believe and what they're summarizing about whatever decisions you make in your life. We can't regulate other people's emotions. That's really, it's, you really do abandon yourself, which is actually funny that we ran into this chapter now, because I'm right now creating a 30-day challenge about for people that caregivers and people that are wanting to change other people. I had 2 people last week wanting coaching for somebody else. One was a spouse and one was a child, their child. Can you coach my spouse? I'm so sick and tired of what he does, X, Y, and Z. And so it really sparked me wanting to create a 30-day challenge for that. It's a self-running, do-it-yourself sort of thing. But it's really fun to go deep dive into something like that, because every day I have a bullet point, something to dive into, something to understand more about when we are really abandoning our own needs, abandoning our own values, when we get lost in trying to make sure that everybody's happy and then we will be happy next, right? So that's really what the submitted question really talks about is, I want to cancel the wedding, and what about all the people's feelings? I have a lot of questions. I wouldn't, and she didn't, I don't know if she responded to the question. I don't know if it was even real, to be honest with you. I think it was kind of like a scenario or an example, but I have so many more questions about what was submitted, because I do coach a lot of people around relationships. In fact, I've really pivoted my business and my marketing towards relationships and leadership. Those are two of my favorite spaces, and communication, which kind of is synonymous with both. But what I like to do is work with my clients in a capacity that I keep things super dummy simple. I always call it super dumb and super simple. And there could be so much more discovered if I was in a coaching relationship, which means I have rapport built with this person. I could ask a lot more questions, because canceling the wedding might not be the solution. He even states, I am afraid that I'm making a huge mistake. I don't know what to do. Okay. Granted, the last thing he says, I want to cancel the wedding, right? But in the beginning, he's like, I'm afraid I'm making a huge mistake. So there's confliction in his paragraph that he submitted. So for me, that tells me that there's a lot more to explore, that he's operating from a survival state of mind. we make poor decisions. I know I have. I've definitely looked over my life and go, oh man, why did I do that? Well, I know why, because I was reacting. I was operating from survival. Or again, I was managing other people's thoughts, feelings, and impressions of me, right? I was afraid of how they would judge me. I can't help but think, due to his words, that he's in a low state of mind, right? He's in a reactive state of mind. I'm not happy. I can't stop shaking, right? People shake, right? That's a natural body response when you're in the flight, freeze, fawn, all of those. I think there's another 2 or 3 nowadays, but that's survival mode activated. That's the left side of your brain. You're in that survival mode. That's natural. That's adrenaline. That's fear. That's being afraid. He even says, I'm afraid, I'm fighting, dreading, I think I'm making a huge mistake. I'm fearful of disappointing my family. I'm fearful of telling my fiance. This is all reaction. I gotta let Kim in. So that's all a reaction state of mind. We do not make healthy choices. We do not make healthy decisions when we're in a survival state of mind. So again, if I had rapport, if I was in a coaching capacity, it doesn't take but just a few seconds, a few minutes. I had a coaching session with a client, I think it's been 3 weeks ago now. It was 3 minutes. 3 minutes. She had a 60-minute coaching session and she got all she needed in 3 minutes. It doesn't take long to shift from left brain to right brain. It doesn't take long to ground yourself, find peace of mind, whatever you want to call it. Every client's different. But activating that loving, compassionate, open-minded, peaceful safety, right? And again, that's why I build rapport with my clients. I keep this rapport building as I have sessions with them. So that way I know how to bring them to a place of safety. I know how to bring calmness into their thought process. I offer them the support, the guidance, the clarity, the things that they need to move into a place where they can make decisions from response, not reactivity, right? So the other thing too is there's a lot of pressures around a wedding. And fully get that. Like culturally, we have created this monstrosity, right? That is a very lucrative business. I know of people that have spent thousands and thousands of dollars on a wedding. Not me. That was not my way of getting married. In fact, my husband and I eloped. $2,000 was a full day. Granted, we were in the Caribbean, but we took off, got on a plane, a full day for $2,000, the whole day, starting off with dual massages. The day was for us, like it was just for the two of us. And so we built the whole day, and sure, certainly I would have loved my family to be there, but it just was too complicated. It's about us. That's what I said. So weddings, we end up taking on too much sometimes if we do build this monstrosity, right? This big fancy wedding. And to me, that didn't make sense. That didn't make sense for me. For me, I don't want to start off a partnership in a heck of a lot of debt and stress, pressure, and chaos. That's just me. And, everybody's different. I get that. So for me, eloping was the choice. Pleasing other people is a lost cause, right? Again, you lose yourself. You're outsourcing your feelings. You're putting everybody else's feelings before your own. My youngest daughter, her boyfriend, now they've been together, I think 7 years now, forever. And her boyfriend is part of a really large family. And she tells me, she's like, Mom, every single weekend we do things together and it's inevitable. One person is always crying at some point. We just can't make everybody happy. So it is so true, right? It's impossible to make everybody happy. And also, he points out in his paragraph that he submitted something about his parents putting money down or whatever, and how that's going to be disappointing for them. Well, you know what? That was their choice to put that money down. Again, not something I would do, but that's me. I look at cost and risk and reward in my life. But anyways, that was not his choice. That was his parents' choice. And I'm sure they knew that there was a risk, right? Probably thought it was slim to none, but that was the risk. Again, if I'm in a coaching session with this individual that submitted that question to Mel, if it's real, I meet my clients where they are. So again, if this was an interaction and where I could really figure out what is it that they want to solve, again, that whole paragraph that was in that book, it was very conflicted. It wasn't one way. It wasn't for sure he had made up his decision. And it seemed like Mel just latched onto that last sentence that he submitted. Like, I just want to cancel it. And certainly I would seek to make sure that that's what he wants. And if that's what he wants, I'll meet him where he's at and help him come from a place of clarity and love and support and reframe what he's going through to navigate it in a way that's empowering and lifts him up. And, that certainly it's going to be an emotional roller coaster. However, he can navigate it in a way that on the other end of it, he might be able to laugh about it or learn something about it. This story that's given, that example, really is a great example as well. And Mel goes into it on that chapter. But what I want to point to is that when she reads it, and she even talks about it at length, she goes several paragraphs in about how it makes that gut-wrenching feeling in your body by reading his story, right? It really paints a picture in our mind. We all probably imagined him being in his shoes or imagined someone or a similar situation. And that to me really is a great example of that we think something, right? We create a story, we create images in our mind, and we feel it, right? We feel what we think. So it's more evidence, more proof that when we imagine maybe it's a son or a nephew or a brother or someone that's in that situation, we feel empathy, right? We feel that movie playing in our mind. And that's what we are. We're born with the gift of thought, and we think, feel, act, and behave throughout our entire life. And the moment that we stop thinking, we're no longer here on earth. So to me, I think that the gift of thought is amazing and it's powerful. And when we embrace that gift and we use it in a way that, for example, just like this example, allows him to really navigate it from how he wants to feel, navigate it from, and again, without having the dialogue back and forth and really understanding if this is truly in alignment with him. And again, that would take lots of questioning and lots of answers. But what I point out is understanding how your feelings are created. And that's how it's something that I would make sure that he very well understands. When you understand that you create your feelings, right? Not your fiance yelling at you, the wedding coming up in a couple of weeks. Your feelings are created through your thoughts, your stories, the images in your mind. Just like what you guys, when you read that paragraph in chapter 8, it creates a storyline in your head. It creates a movie like watching on Netflix. And when we really understand how our feelings are created and they're created through thoughts, then we can create our own stories in each and every single moment. Now, all feelings are created via thought unless someone is poking you with a stick. That's a whole different story, and that's not something that I coach around, right? That's the physical abuse piece. Every once in a while, I get people that come and send me all kinds of nasty messages because of that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about physical or emotional abuse. That, in my opinion, seek help and shelter and get out of that situation. We do feel our thoughts via the images that we create in our mind, the images that we believe, the images that we get attached to. Those are the stories that we repeat over and over and over again. So if we all think that, I think all of us in this space, and hopefully all of them anybody that's watching this replay, have faced hard things throughout our life, right? Things that are hard, things that are complicated, and maybe all consuming. such as maybe canceling a wedding, at that level, getting divorced, right? My first marriage didn't last, right? I made the decision to leave. I made that decision, very heavy, very difficult decision. But also leaving a job kind of is in that same line. Maybe starting a new business, moving to a different place that's away from home, away from family, right? We've all most likely have faced hard, difficult decisions or challenges such as this one, labeled in this story. But when we add other people to that decision, when we add other people into that story, it can muddy the waters. It can be very confusing. It can it can create that confliction that he describes in that paragraph, right? I want this, but they want that. Well, then you're kind of conflicted. I can't say that word today. Conflicted, you're lost, you end up being in this reactive state. You can't make a decision that's in alignment with your values, your morals, your principles, your convictions, what you really believe in. You get lost by bringing other people's thoughts, opinions, judgments, expertise into your life. It is your life, your decisions. So your job is never to manage other people's emotions. I know that we're conditioned to believe that. I think as kids, when we enter school, right, it's about, I think manners drifts into managing other people's feelings. Oh, don't say that, you're going to hurt Billy Bob's feelings and this and that and everything. And sometimes households that we're raised in, we are also told to suppress our feelings and to not act a certain way. And those things are all, in my opinion, like hypnosis, right? We're taught that and we believe that, and they become ingrained in us. We don't have the bandwidth. We don't have the energy as human beings to manage other people's emotions. We can only manage our own. And that's best served that way. As far as the guy that submitted the question, here's what I think. Either direction he goes is hard, right? So if he does cancel the wedding, that's going to be hard. If he goes through with the wedding, that's going to be hard. So it's always like, pick your hard, right? And life is hard, right? Life is hard. I would support him in navigating, likely if it was him in a coaching session in that moment, right? Navigating him moving up into a higher state of mind, giving him access to what it feels like to be in an empowering feeling so he can access that in the next hour, the next day, the next week, helping him be able to move to that space quicker and quicker, helping him make decisions from his heart, from his values, from his morals, from his soul, from his convictions, from what he believes in. And again, that's surrounded by good feelings. This again is responding to life versus life affecting him. Because when we believe that things outside of us, right, the fiance, the family, his friends, and what people are going to believe about him, we're no longer emotionally intelligent. We're really emotionally violated. We're emotionally giving our freedom away. So what I point to is being emotionally mature, emotionally independent, making your choices that you feel really good about in your core. Now, seeking reassurance is something that Mel talks about, and to me that's synonymous with colluding. So colluding is really, like, you see it a lot out on social media. I see it a lot in groups, jumping into groups and saying, oh, my husband is such a jerk, and then 40 other people go, your husband is a jerk, leave him. So to me, that's getting reassurance, validation that your husband's a jerk. Well, we don't know what else is going on behind closed doors. All we're getting is this paragraph. And when we have people picking sides of who's right and who's wrong, that's really, and we're operating off of such limited information, limited data. Again, that's not emotionally mature, right? That's not reinforcing you being able to make your own decisions. It's reinforcing that you're a victim. It's reinforcing that life is happening to you and you're a victim. But when we are emotionally mature, when we're emotionally intelligent and we're thinking and making our decisions from within ourselves, we are able to move forward powerfully. We're able to move forward with conviction and belief and feel strong and proud at the end of the day. That certainly there are times that we have to make hard decisions, difficult decisions. And there's going to be, again, pick your heart, both decisions, there's going to be a hard, both decisions, there's going to be consequences. But being able to move through those things and be able to sleep at night, right? Not laying there crying and going, why did I make this decision? If we reassure anyone, this is why coaching is beautiful, is coaching is meant to be not colluding, right? Saying what's right or wrong. It's really about empowering that person to come up with the best decision for them in that moment, right? That's all we all are doing. If we look back over our life, we might find times in our life that, man, why did I do that? That was a terrible decision, but we make decisions off at that moment based on what we know is to be right and safe and fair and good for us in that moment. We're operating from what tools we have. And we can look at the people that raised us, the people that have been in our life that maybe we feel didn't do a great job, but they, again, were operating from what they thought was right at the time, whatever their thoughts were, whatever their beliefs were, whatever they thought was the right decision at the moment. I do believe that. So again, we want to make sure the whole seeking reassurance piece or colluding or asking people for advice, it's really if we give people advice and it ends badly, guess who they're going to blame? Right? So like with this guy that submitted this, should I get married? Should I not get married? Right? So what if in a wild world, that it was on social media and Mel's like, yeah, you should leave or you shouldn't get married, right? Well, who's to blame? Right? When things go badly, well, Mel would be. Not that would ever happen. But if we reassure him and validate him to stay in this marriage, and maybe it ends up great, who's going to take that decision and who's to blame for that, right? He's going to take that blame most likely. But what this reinforces is a dependency on someone else to make decisions for you. The reality is we want people, just like the 30-day challenge that I'm creating, it really talks about reinforcing with those people that we love to come up with their own solutions, right? Come up with your own ideas. I'll help you brainstorm, but at the end of the day, I want you to have the resources and the capacity and know how to brainstorm and come up with your own solutions. So that way you're not dependent on me, right? We want to make sure that we reinforce that emotional maturity, being able to make decisions that you can learn from, maybe if maybe it doesn't go well, and be able to pivot, because that's how we learn and grow. I use the scenario of if we do our kids' homework for their whole grade, kindergarten through 12, and then throw them into a university or throw them out to the wild and say, go get a job, they're not going to do very well, right? So it's really about letting people, holding space for them, supporting them, encouraging them, yes, but we want to reinforce people to be emotionally mature. Mel, I'm almost done. Mel talks about making decisions from your emotions can stop you from making the right decisions. I would actually say it differently, that you can make decisions from a good feeling. Okay. Those of you that have gotten coaching from me know that I have this. It's always what I go through on session 1 is, how do you want to feel, right? It's really learning to be able to answer that question with your soul, with conviction, with answering that question in a quiet, slowed down state of mind where you find a good feeling. And in that good feeling is your answers, right? And so if I was in a short coaching session with this person that submitted this question, it would be, I would listen to him and get a little bit more information. And then I would ask him, how do you want to feel? And I would just drop the mic and let him talk. Likely because if he's still spooled up in a sped up mind, likely he'll say, well, I want to be happy, but I don't want to make everyone upset and angry and blah, 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 blah. What? Stop him, right? Because when we move to the survival side of our brain and we're worried about, again, other people, and we're sped up and we're talking really fast and we're wound up and we're worried and anxious and stressed out, we can't come up with ideas, right? We go into tunnel vision. Like we literally can't see peripheral. All we can see is just woo, we're just focused into our problems. We become a problem expert and we wallow and ruminate, and that's all we can see. But when we slow down, take some deep breaths and feel our heartbeat and really get grounded. And literally, if you have to put your feet in grass, that's fine. All my clients have their own unique ways of finding peace and groundedness and quietness. Some of it's in music, some of it's in art, some of it, I have clients that have like a stream or river nearby and they literally go put their feet in the stream. Do what works for you. But it's really getting into a place of learning how to sensory regulate, right? Using one of your five or more than one of your five senses to slow down and become very present with yourself and asking yourself, how do I want to feel? In answering that, I always say with new clients, with 10 positive, powerful words, or until you get a good feeling. So it might be 30 or it might be 2, right? But fine, once you use that question many, many, many times on different scenarios, I usually say start with something small and then work up to the big stuff. Like this one submitted in chapter 8 is very big, very enormous, very charged, because it has something to do with family, obviously. And it's a big decision in his life. But start with small stuff. Learn what words are you repetitively using? What words have volume and energy and spiciness to it, and really get your like the goosebumps to raise, and which words have a lot of meaning to them outside of the dictionary meaning, right? So it's finding words that resonate with you, that have a lot of good feelings behind them. And sometimes I'll tell people to imagine their child or their pet or those things that they really love and bring them a lot of peace of mind. I'll tell them to imagine that, right? If you have to, alongside that, and find a good feeling. Once you find a good feeling, you can access your wisdom. You can access a loving, supportive answer. Right? It's not going to come from me. It's not going to come from Facebook. It's not going to come from Reddit. It's not going to come from Mel Robbins. It's not going to come from anybody, but from your internal heart and soul, because you're the one that has to deal with the cost, the expense, the aftermath, the residue, whatever happens. And sometimes it's not good. And sometimes it's fine. That's great, because that's part of your journey, right? That's part of what you have to experience to get to the next level of your emotional intelligence. That's what brings, that's your ragged edge. And that's what the universe or God or Allah or whatever you believe in is wanting you to go through. Life is not meant to be all love and roses and cherries all the time. Sadly, I wish it was, but it's not. So again, we don't know much about this guy's situation that he submitted. It's a very short paragraph, but I do believe that if he's fully grounded and slowed down, and he finds and accesses a good feeling and sits in it for just a matter of, they even on a brain scan, they say it only takes about 3 to 5 seconds. Once you know how to do it, it's literally, it feels like to me, like it's a switch in my brain. I can feel it. When my mind gets sped up, it has 3 or 4 times this last week, but I know how to slow down my brain. I know how to access the right side of my brain, the creative, the innovative, the loving, the supportive, the compassionate side of my brain. I know how to do it. But when you make a decision from love and compassion and what really feels really good, you can do it unapologetically. You can do it untriggerable, right? You're not triggered by what your family says. You know what? Mom, Dad, sorry you had to put down that money. I'll pay you back some way, somehow, whatever, work that out on the back end. But it sounds like to me from his post, he's making a rash decision. He's making a decision out of fear. He's managing a bunch of feelings. And here's the reality is if he's pushed, if he's reassured with, yeah, just cancel that wedding. Is this a pattern in his life? Has he done this before? Or is this the first of many, right? Running when things get stressful, when things get chaos, right? So are we reinforcing a new behavior or a pattern that's been building and growing? So that would be something else that I would be curious about, but that's my brain and that's what I specialize in. So, but I'm curious for all of you, if I'm going to open it up, see what you guys are thinking. And a question I had was, have any of you disappointed someone in your life? And what was that like? And what did you learn as a result of that?
To think.
I think that if I can jump in, the question of letting someone down. I think that, with having kids, for me, it's just that's an easy one. And it can be just like little whatever, they don't get the toy, they don't get the cookie, whatever. And that's like whatever, small. But when it comes to big things like this chapter specifically, like letting down and whatever, I'm not sure if he's more upset letting his parents down or letting the fiance down or both or whatever. But adults seem to have a different like impact. Letting adults down for me is different than letting my kids down. I don't know what that is. As the parent had to like, of course I'm supposed to upset them. But with my parents, and maybe it's the people pleasing, the former people pleasing in my life. But when I left California, when I moved, I didn't tell my parents. And they found out because they saw my house on the market through an app, and I hadn't told them because I knew they'd be upset with me doing it. And I did let them down. I mean, that was never part of their plan, me leaving California ever. And it really was a thing. It was really, really, really a big thing. And I was doing it anyway. I was doing it for me because I wanted to do it, and I'm grateful I did it. But this chapter, although short, and I really don't care for her, the paragraph about the wedding part, but disappointing people or letting people down really resonates with me. Just because I am such a people pleaser, especially being I don't know, that's my wiring, especially to parents, and this unwritten expectation of what they want from me and things I've never agreed to, these unwritten contracts. And so I think for me, that's the big takeaway. Regardless of the chapter, for me is about how I need to do what's best for me. And I love what you said, Catherine, in the beginning. Like when you do what's best for you, then life works out great. It's when you shift that energy and make other people's needs yours that things really go astray. But she talks about, again, kind of reiterating from the prior chapters about other people's, emotions are not your problem. And she keeps bringing that up. That's a constant thread throughout her book. But I did find it fascinating that she was kind of playing therapist, and she's not a therapist. And I found that really shocking. I thought, wow, I have a therapist. People have therapists, and that's not her role. So this was not one of my favorite chapters, honestly. I did a lot of underlining and things I liked a lot, but it wasn't one of my favorites.
Yeah. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. Maybe, I don't know, who knows what it was about. I mean, I appreciate I think what, she was trying to do there. I appreciate the example because it was really fun to play with for me, because I look at, just like when I'm coaching, I'll usually draw a line on the paper and I write on the left side all the fear-based words that they use, and then all the, open, love, curiosity words. And the reason why is because I'm looking for the conflict. I'm looking for what's heavier, what burden are they carrying, what is their story created from. And definitely from that paragraph was heavily weighed in, and it was all, fear and worry and anxiety, and those aren't his words, but it just helps me get an inside peek of what their experience is, because what words he's typing out, if that's real to her, is just a fraction of what's going on in his head, what he's really experiencing, right? It's very much just a fragmented paragraph. We really don't know the magnitude of everything. We don't know what all is going on. There could be a lot more to the story. But yeah, it's interesting, disappointment and people. I don't know, like I feel, I don't know, I feel like in my relationship with my daughters, I don't want to disappoint them, but I also, I don't know. I don't know how I could disappoint them. They're very pleasing, amazing girls, but I don't know. It's interesting. I'll have to ask them that. How have I disappointed you lately? They go, oh, mom, we don't. They're so funny. Anyways.
The last line though of this chapter specifically, it says, find the courage to make the right decision for you, even if it feels wrong to others. And I like that a lot. I like that message a lot. And I feel like maybe her way to hammer it home was to do this wedding example. But if you ask the girls, did I make a decision that felt wrong to you? Maybe that versus disappointment. Like you're pulling on this disappointment piece, but I'm taking away of like, make the decision what's best for you.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of other people's opinions or, how they'll feel about it. So,
well, one thing
in that regard, I mean, again, I did a lot of underlining. There were some great takeaways for me, but I don't like a playing therapist. And I feel like she was playing therapist.
I think one thing that I did bump into real heavily with my daughters, one of them very specifically in high school, was her dating somebody that I did not approve of at all. I remember they were both in the back seat and I'm driving and I mean, just tears, it was so that probably was the hardest moment raising my daughters. And I wrote it out, never, ever, ever said anything. I knew it was part of her journey, and I knew that if I even, and they felt it in the car. There was complete silence, I mean, I know they felt the energy, and I know that it was confusing, and and it lasted a couple more months longer, but I never said anything. And I just did not want to lose connection with her. I really didn't, because I know with her dad, right? So my first husband, I know with him, my family didn't approve of him. And I was like, I'll show you. I didn't say that, but looking back, like they did not approve of him. And that just made me go further and deeper and more rebellion, right? So damned if I was going to do that again or, repeat that. So that was not happening. So I wrote it out. I knew that it was her journey, and both her stepdad and her biological dad called me daily. They both, or my husband, we talked about it daily, and we just supported each other, the three of us, and we talked about it a lot. And they were terrified. They're like, we can't say anything. I don't know. It's up to you, Mom. You do something about it. And I didn't, I just lovingly held her and hugged her and maintained open communication. And she did. She broke it off. And yeah, and we've talked about it since. And she's like, Mom, what was I doing? What was I thinking? I'm like, I don't know. But, and that's all I say. It's like, you know what? You had to go through that. That was part of your journey. And that's what I witnessed, is her progression and navigating experiences and people and relationships. And it led to something better. And then that one led to something else, which is what she has now. She's only really dated 3 people, and she's with a really, really amazing man now. And so it was just part of her journey. I look back on it, and but for me to get involved, I was scared. I was terrified. But that's not for me, right? That's for her. So I don't know. So I can look at it that way, but as far as the opposite way, I don't know. I feel like I'm the kid and they're the adults now.
Mhm.
The roles have flipped.
I wanted to say something to Shayna. And
Dinner.
Shayna, Shayna, you remind me a lot of my daughter. And I guess she left to go to the bathroom.
She hears us. She's making dinner.
Oh, okay. But anyway, my daughter also did the same thing. They moved from California and they didn't tell us.
Oh.
And we found out they said they were actually going for football to the place in Utah for their son, and they were just going to rent a house. And so he could play football. And they ended up buying, and we didn't know they'd bought the house. And once they left, they really stopped a lot of the communication. And it started feeling really super heartbreaking. It was part of the reason that I found Catherine, because I adore my daughter. I think you're awesome too. My daughter's really wise, very independent. She really wants a life of her own, which I really respect. Um, and I had to really learn, to let her go. And I don't think I was too much. We got together quite a bit because her kids were getting all of them were getting orthodontics from my husband, and we'd get together often for that and swim days and stuff. But um it never even crossed my mind that I might be overbearing or something. I'm not really sure what it was, why she was so anxious to move away and be on her own. And then she started going to a therapist who said, you never had a voice, and it sounds to me like your mom is this and that. And so it made her kind of really hardened in a way. And she started using her voice in a way that she would communicate with us. It was very projecting, like um, very harsh, she's always been so kind. And it was a way of her, it was hurtful to me. I allowed it to be. I know we all have a choice, but it felt hurtful to me. And I thought, wow, I feel like I've been a really good mom and done a lot for her. And now all of a sudden she just doesn't want me in her life. And it was really like the hardest thing I've ever gone through, to be honest. And because, gosh, you just adore your kids. I mean, it doesn't matter how old they are. I adore her now just as much as I did when she was 2 or 3, and or whatever age. And so recently she got a different therapist, and her marriage is going great, and she wanted to kind of reconcile, and she called, and for me, one of my greatest joys, and this is just me, but is the relationship that I have with my mom and my dad. They aren't married, but I try to call them probably, I don't know, every other day, just to talk for a minute and make sure they're okay. They're 90. And I just really enjoy it. It's one of the greatest blessings, I think, in my life to have that relationship. They're not perfect at all, but I feel like there's something special and magical about being connected to them and to showing them that I love them, and kind of really making an extra effort to show that I love them and tell them what I love about them. It really gives me a ton of joy, and I can't describe why. I don't know why. But I don't know, I was really glad when my daughter called and that we're back in her life and that we can go to events. Um, so I just find the whole process really interesting as to why kids pull away. And it's okay. I don't have any judgment of you, Shayna, at all. I'm just saying that, speaking from a mother's point of view, she adores you and loves you so much, And if you ever find a time that you want to reconnect and really have a great relationship with her, I'm sure that some of this distance has been helpful, and she'll be a different person in some ways when you go back and decide to nurture that relationship. As adults, it's kind of in the kids' ballpark. As parents, we're always think we're going to be the one that's in charge of the relationship when they're young, but when they grow up, they're really kind of the ones in charge, because we're always there, and it's up to them if they want to nurture it or not. So that's just my little 2 cents, but I really admire what you've been expressing, and it's so interesting being on this end of it, the mom, because you're about my daughter's age. She's really pretty. She's really wise. You remind me of her a lot. So
I haven't read the chapter, but in listening to everybody, I kept thinking, okay, what have that I maybe disappointed somebody? And it brought me back to, and my sister knows this, when I was 16, I decided I was going to go overseas as an exchange student. And I applied, and I was quiet and shy. And I went. I went to New Zealand for a year. I was flying to a country I'd never heard of. How many days it took us to get there back then. And I just didn't, I just did it. And I don't remember thinking, oh, my parents, how are they going to feel? So lately, my mom and I have spoken about it because I did this in 1977. And lately we've been speaking about it because what I brought them was a whole nother family, New Zealand and Australians, that we are close with. But now we talk about it, and she said it almost broke her putting me on that plane. And I didn't even think about that back then. I was 16.
Yeah, you don't think about that.
And and later I said, I would not have put, I have 3 sons. I would not have put a single one of them on a plane at 16 to go halfway around the world.
Yeah.
But there's my son who moved to Germany, Berlin. He has that side, so I understand it. It almost broke me putting him on the plane. He was 35 years old. But now, listening to everybody, now I'm kind of like, okay, I probably did disappoint my parents, but they also saw that this was going to be a huge growth. And that's how I see it. Now, my sister moved away.
Linda.
I know, Linda.
Yeah.
But we all love and support it and can't wait till the house is done. And I get it, Yeah, you feel disappointment, but then there's that feeling of, wow, okay, they're living their best life.
Right. What an experience, a once in a lifetime experience. And you're right. It's interesting how your perspective at 16 was, I'm gonna go do this, and you're looking forward to it and all this excitement. And then your parents are in the different story. It's the same thing, the same circumstance. You're experiencing it differently. And so that's just like, cultural or familial ways of doing things, rituals or religious things or different things that different families do or different cultures do. It's all different, and not one way is the only way. There's not one right way. It's just what stories we're making up, what we're thinking, and what we're believing. Just like Kim beautifully described her connection with her mom and her dad, and how that's it fills her day with so much joy and pleasure to reach out to them and talk to them. I don't have that relationship, and that's okay. Do I want that? Yes. I would love that. That's not in the cards that I was dealt. Right? That's not what I was offered, and that's okay. It doesn't make my way the wrong way or your way the right way. It just is.
Right.
Yeah. So
Sometimes we have to be like, it just is. I mean, that really it just is. It's reality. Sometimes these things. But Catherine, I also want to thank you for something, because recently I was at a rehearsal, and I made this role that is a lead role in Oakland, and it's very political. And I came in not as one of the political players, and they chose me, right? And so there's a lady in there on the first day. Every little thing I did, she wanted the role. She didn't get it. She would look at my paper, and she would take her pencil and she would circle it and say, make sure you get that next time, and just really like batting at me. And I was like, okay, well, and then I thought about Catherine, and I thought, you know what? She always says, go to compassion. And I thought, this lady is hurting somehow. And so I started asking her about what experiences she had, and how fortunate I was to be sitting next to her in reality, because she was really good. And so she kind of backed off. Well, then on Saturday, we had this dress rehearsal with the orchestra, and I missed a come in, where I'm supposed to come in. And she's on the front row as a soloist, and she's watching. And she puts her head in her hands like this, like, I can't believe it. And the director swings around and you have to stop a 30-piece orchestra and 100 singers, right? I mean, it's a lot of people you have to stop if you miss an entrance.
Yeah.
And it's really tricky. And he's looking at me and his eyes are pleading like, I picked you, show me what you're made of. And at that moment, I look down. This is all happening in a fractions of seconds, right? And she says out loud and to the person next to her, I can't believe he picked her. And I'm on now. And my first thought is to die. But then I thought, you know what? This is my chance
Yes.
right now. And I pulled up whatever big girl panties I had on and I sang my guts out, probably the best I've ever done in my life at that moment, the whole solo. And you could have heard a pin drop afterwards. And I was so grateful, honestly, that I have learned to become so strong under criticism because of what I've been through with Catherine and things I've been through in my life. And I can disassociate it now with what is me.
Mm-hmm.
So when someone criticizes, I realize it's not about me. Yes, I missed my piece, but that doesn't mean I don't deserve to be there. We can make mistakes. I missed my piece, but what she was saying is, I can't believe he didn't pick me.
Yes.
And she was upset about it. And we all get different turns. I don't know why he picked me either. Maybe she should have been it, but he didn't pick her and I got picked. And so that was my time. But it was so interesting how I've been under so much criticism in my life during different things, really hard things, that now I've been able to say, this isn't about me. It's about them. Let me go. I'm going right now. I'm doing me. Let them and let me. That was a let them, let me moment.
Yes, it was.
It really was.
Yeah.
I feel like I
Ooh.
championed it. I gave myself goosebumps that I did it.
Yeah. I love it.
I was on fire.
Right
On
on.
fire.
Yeah.
So
Big girl panty fire.
Yeah, so these moments can happen when you really start practicing. The next time I get criticized, I'm going to be thankful because it's making me stronger each time.
Yep.
And I can say thank you and thank you for opening up the dialogue. There's nothing to fear.
Yeah. And you're right. There was 1% truth in it, right? You did start late. That's okay. I'm here and I'm going to.
And I kind of can't believe he picked me.
Yeah.
For a second there, I was like, maybe I can't believe he picked me either. Okay. But anyway.
You're right. But watch me go.
But I wasn't going to crumble. I was going to let her
Yeah.
and then let me.
Yeah.
And so anytime any of us are criticized, we really need to be thankful because it's making us stronger for that moment that we need that strength.
Yeah. So in that question of how do I want to feel in that moment after she said that, what would be one word that comes to mind? And it may have been something you heard in that moment, consciously, non-consciously, or a word that you could come up with now.
Well, at first it was shock for sure. Like, who says that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, really. But the second one was I felt a brief second of compassion for her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, I know you wanted this role, but I'm the one that got picked, so I'm gonna do my very best. So I don't know, the word would probably be just a tremendous amount of courage at that moment.
Courage.
Just it overcame my body. It was
Yeah.
instant. I just turned that off and I sang with every fiber of my being.
Right.
Honestly, it was really amazing.
The reason why I bring that up is because I want you to attach courage to that feeling now.
Yes.
Because I want you to be able to access it again and again and again and again.
Very good. Instead of freezing, because sometimes if someone attacks me, my first thing is to just freeze. Like, did that really happen?
Right. So it's courage now, right? That's your pull that out and you're going to pull your panties up and you're going to belt it out, whatever. Right.
Well, in a way, we all belt out life, right? And we all have different talents and things that we're good at. It's all different. And I love that it's different. I love that there's so much diversity in life. who wants to all be the same? What if everybody was singers? That would be horrible. All we did was sing, or all we did was engineering, or all we did was whatever. I love that we're all so different, and we're all needed. We all need each other, really.
Well, the other thing is too that I always say is I wouldn't want to marry another version of me.
I know. We think we do,
Yeah,
but then in reality, we really don't. For sure. I know I don't. Oh my gosh.
But you're right. There's so much. I love that there's so much. And I think for me, because of the restlessness in me, is there's so many things to explore and so many things to learn and so many things. Just like right now, spring is here, and I'm thinking, what cool things do I want to do and try and explore this year? And then you start like looking around at what options there are, and it becomes overwhelming. You're like, oh man, so much to do and so much to explore. But and same thing with people, I just love that so many people are so good at that one thing. Like they go deep into that one thing, and it's just fascinating. And that's why I think everybody that we come in contact with is to teach us something. Like her, the gal that you ran into, she's teaching you courage.
Yeah. Yeah, she is.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
that's
I
how
thank
I
you for that.
that's how I see it, because I have to see her every rehearsal, No,
Thank
I
you, courage.
no, I mean, she really does hate me, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I have to let her.
Yeah.
And
I think she's jealous of you. I'm not sure if she hates you. I think she's jealous of you.
Well, maybe the role or something, but I don't have any emotion towards her. I just want to do my best, and it's intimidating. It's a big thing I haven't done for a while, and so I can't put energy to that. I can't worry about what she thinks. I really can't, or I would just crumble.
I've been in groups of people that I've felt that sense of envy or jealousy or whatever, and I'm like, I'm going to win them over by the end of the program or the course or whatever that we're involved in. And not in a way that's like I have an expectation for that, but in a way that I just like what you did, is lovingly, compassionately look at them through the lens of what can I learn from them? How can I lovingly appreciate them and look for their strengths and acknowledge it. Wow, you're so strong. You're always here on time. You're always whatever. Find something.
You're on time.
Yeah, you're always on time. You're always your
You
clothes
don't
are always
have a
matching.
role, but you're on time. No, but I know what you mean, though. I know, but sometimes it's weird. I like that too. I like the thought I can win that person over. We can find common ground. I can point out things that they're really great at. But some people don't. They don't want to be won over.
Right.
And
Linda knows that
have
we
to
have
just
a lady in our homeowners association that there's no way that I will. But I did send her an email. She left the board, and I sent her an email that says, oh, that had to have been a really hard decision to come to that. And, just so you know, I'm here for you if you want to have coffee or tea or whatever. And of course, I never got an email back from her. But anyways, I mean, I do. And it genuinely was from my heart. If she takes it, interprets it someplace else, that's her projection and not me. And that's her suffering and not me, right? It means more about them than me. I clear my conscience because I'm, saying how I feel. I'm putting out a bid of here's a limb, I'm here. I really do believe that this person is miserable and suffering and angry at the world. And that's a horrible place to be. And the more bitter and angry and resentful and mean you are to people, your world gets really, really small. So I extended an olive branch, whether she takes it or not, that the ball's in her court. Right. So I think that we're all human beings that are suffering in our own heads of whatever we have going on in our worlds. And so yeah, I think
I appreciate so much your posts too. I want you to know. Is everybody getting those? Aren't they good? Do you write those? Those are so good.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of time. That
It
would
is.
take me a lot of time to write those. That's
Well,
amazing.
I'm really starting to think about a book here. So I kind of have that kind of
I hope
thing
so.
yeah. We'll get there.
Yeah.
So, well, we are at an hour. And I want to respect your guys' time. But yeah, small chapter this week. Hope you guys will come back chapter 9 and explore that, or keep talking. I love this dialogue. I love wherever it goes. It's fun to share memories and moments and look at what we can learn from each other. And what a great story, Kim, that you shared. Prevailing through courage.
It was definitely a moment. Thank you so much, everyone. What a
Thank
great
you.
group.
Yes, thank you. See you guys.
Okay.
Bye-bye.